receive $14 million more in cap space, and I believe this is because Tony Romo's deal comes off the books. Is this real cap space field in reality?
This is, Wendy, and finally, this was a post-June 1 cut by the Dallas Cowboys.
That's right, June 1 today.
Exactly, which means that tomorrow they can actually utilize this $14 million. Now, the downside is they had to wait, and also that the dead money on Tony Romo's deal is split over this season and next. Who's going to count $8.9 million against their cap in 2018, even when he is not playing for them. But the Cowboys, who might have a need for some cap space on either adding defensive pieces or perhaps extending players that are currently under contract. We're looking at you, guard Zach Martin. Now have some wiggle room.
All right, well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about those needs and where they might be able to spend that money. To your point, by tomorrow, it's, write the checks.
There's no one in free agency that they would really like to acquire, and he mentioned it. Zach Martin is the guy. You want to make sure you take care of your players, and that's very important. When you have extra money like that, a lot of people get enamored with go out in free agency. Sometimes when you have guys that are under contract still, you have extra money, you have the ability to extend them. That's a smart deal. I always felt like if a guy was a good player and he was going into his third or fourth year before he got away and became a free agent, let's go back to the table and give him some extra money. Let's keep him a little bit longer.
Well, it's that age-old adage, the grass isn't always greener. Sometimes you want to keep what you got and make it work.
He's going to make a lot of green, Zach Martin.
A lot of green.
He might be the best player in his position in football and probably has been.
He's probably looking at the calendar. All right,
and he's great in the locker room.
First.
He's great in the locker room, Wendy, so you want to pay a guy like that.
Yeah, sure.
You really do.
All right, our next headline, Browns coach Hugh Jackson praises quarterback Brock Osweiler. Here is what Coach Jackson had to say.
Brock's been a pleasant surprise. He's done a good job. He works hard at it every day. He's into it. I think he really enjoys being here. I think Coach Lee's done a great job with him. I think he's really meshed with the other quarterbacks, and so he has a good feel to him. So, hey, who knows? Maybe he can do some of that stuff.
And there's got to be no film of that.
None.
All right, so that's what the coach said, and it's that time of year, of course, where you want to be positive. But what do you hear about Osweiler so far in Cleveland?
We should have a May quote board.
Yeah,
all the
May,
quotes from May and see how they turn out come October, November, December.
Often a different tone.
No doubt about it, Wendy. But I would say this. I think that common sense suggests Cody Kessler is the likely starter for Cleveland in Week 1. He returns after being the starter to finish last season. He's a handpicked player by the Cleveland Browns, whereas Brock Osweiler was the throw-in to a deal to get a second-round pick next year for the Cleveland Browns. Is it possible he could win the starting job? Yeah. Let's not forget that it wasn't just the Houston Texans that wanted to pay him a lot of money. The Denver Broncos themselves were prepared to pay him a lot of money. Now, not $72 million last offseason, but they thought long and hard about keeping Brock Osweiler around and making him the starter of their future.
Remember, Brock Osweiler has started 22 games. So this is not surprising in the offseason that he's kind of running around playing pretty good. Look, and Brock Osweiler has a lot of pressure on him. This is his third team.
Yeah,
he hasn't been in the league in over 5 years. But here's the deal with this Cleveland situation. When you look at the future, it's Deshaun Kaiser. That's who the future is. Okay, so this is all fun and games right now. Because the guy they've got to get ready to play, and I don't know if he's going to play this year, which would be a good thing for Kaiser to sit a whole year. But they got to get him up and playing, because if you can teach this young guys the fundamentals of football, just the fundamental and how to play the game in his mind, he has all the attributes. He has size. He has ability to move around the pocket. He can run. He has all the qualifications. He just needs to learn how to play the game at a pro level.
Is Osweiler a guy who might have some value elsewhere? It seems early to talk about that at this point. And to say, again, it's his third team. So then you start to get some question marks. But
yes, there was speculation. There were people around the NFL that believed he could be a trade chip in the draft. Now, two things probably would have to happen for that market to bubble up again. One, there probably have to be an injury to a team who's currently very thin at the quarterback spot. And two, Cleveland, in offloading Brock Osweiler, would probably have to agree to pay a portion, if not a significant portion, of his salary next year. He's still making far too much money for some team to just say, you know something, he's clearly our guy.
Yeah,
remember this. Cleveland,
seems like there'd have to be some adjustments.
Yeah, remember this. Cleveland has 4 quarterbacks. You don't have enough reps. All these guys are not getting reps when you go into camp. It's impossible. So you got to make some decisions here sooner or later.
Well, and it keeps somebody from getting ready, which is what they need to have happen. Well, we've got our hands on the NFL Football Power Index preseason rankings. Who's moved up after last season? Should they be higher? That's partially the list. Well, Phil